This is going to be an educational presentation, perhaps even eye-opening. And our goal today is really just for you all to take away some new insights. We've unfortunately seen those smaller to medium-sized environments really being forgotten about in the security market when it comes to command center design and configuration. So we're also going to talk about how Vistacom SecureView was developed specifically to solve this in an affordable way. Mr. Dan Gundry, he is the managing director of Vistacom Control Room Solutions, and he's going to cover exactly how those small to medium command center spaces can actually reduce technology costs and remove the unnecessary complexities associated with those larger over-engineered systems that we see far too often in operation centers. And of course, he'll break down what we mean when we say Vistacom SecureView is designed specifically for these smaller control room environments with a simple, easily self-assembled, highly affordable command center kit.
This is a product that has been in different stages of configuration and conception. It comes out of years of experience and proof of performance and engagements with different end users, integrators, manufacturers, consultants, and other colleagues in the security operation and overall control room space. So we think we've got down to something that's very important for what we believe to be a very overlooked part of the market, which is that small to medium, and we'll define that a little bit more for you. But before we get into the heart of all of it, what I want to do is just kind of take stock, share with you my perspective, our perspective on today's command center. And you can define command center, big and small. You can divide it in the world of security, public safety, network operations, healthcare command centers, IT. You can define that in so many different sub-vertical markets with under the title of command center. But basically, workflow, concept of operations, what is the mission of the command center? When we start talking about what these spaces need to do and what we need to develop technology to support, first starts off with what's the mission? What are you looking to monitor? What are you looking to analyze? What is the actual concept of operations of the command center? Number two is, what's the data points that are feeding into that? The operators, dispatchers, analysts that are sitting within the command center, what information do they need to have access to in order to help them make decisions and respond to incidents? Incidents defined however you do it as part of your concept of operations. Blue sky, everything's normal, business is good. Gray sky, there's some level of incident. The operator experience, and this starts to get to the heart of who Vistacom is within the control room space, who we are to our partners, which is understanding and designing technologies and solutions that meet the operator's needs to make them more efficient, more alert, and more responsive. Ultimately, them doing their job better and taking the complexity of technology out of their hands in order for them to just do their job well. Overall, when we look at the command center space, we also talk about shared situational awareness. And this is that concept of a common operational picture, being an overview of what's going on, the security posture at any given time, and the concept of being able to share it. Share it both inside the four walls of command center as well as to external stakeholders, maybe down the hallway, maybe on a different floor, different building, different state, different country. So when we start talking about item number 4 in terms of today's command center, we talk about shared situational awareness. And number 5, which ties into that, is the communication and decision-making chain. Communication and decision-making ties into all 4. What's the mission? How empowered are my operators and analysts sitting at their desks? When do I need to offboard it? Who needs to be involved? And how I communicate, how I make those decisions, how I respond. Now, this is today's command center overall. We're not going to speak to each and every one of these because Vistacom SecureView specifically is meant to address a very specific hole in the market. So when we start talking about command centers, we're going to talk about 2 different types. We're actually not going to talk about this type. So the pictures that's hopefully on your screen right now is of what I would consider to be a global security operations center or a fusion center, or you can call it again whatever you want to call it. But this is one that's got a lot of operators in it. There is usually multiple disciplines and concept of operations. So maybe they're doing employee travel, supply chain logistics, executive protection, campus monitoring. and the like, right? Risk analysis, threat analysis, insider threat, what have you. So they're looking at a broad spectrum of content. It changes on a regular basis, and there's a mix of different operators and analysts in here. Larger type of spaces that require a lot of integration, a lot of software layers, and we're looking at it through a very different lens. We do this every day, and we do this very well, and we work with a lot of you and your partners in order to affect this, but these are not the types of spaces that we're talking about today. That's a whole entirely different conversation that I'm more than willing to have with you on the side. What we're talking about today are these types of spaces. These are the small to medium-sized dispatch control centers, little command centers, brand awareness and monitoring centers, and what have you. A small room, sometimes it's a hole in the wall in the basement because security always gets the space given to them, not the space they ask for, or whatever that looks like. But these are the small to medium command centers. And we're going to talk about what the problem here is. This is the problem that we're trying to solve. I'm not going to read through all of these, but again, the types of spaces we're talking about are those SOCs, those NOCs, those TOCs. I keep saying I sound like a Dr. Seuss book when I talk about that. But realistically, we're talking about any kind of space that's 4 operators and less. 30 by 30 or less. Those are the types of spaces we're talking about. And the problem here, realistically, it's in this bottom point, which is the bottom line of all these different bullets are that these spaces are historically either under-designed or over-designed. Let's talk about what under-design means right now. They're either a situation where you just slap a couple monitors on the wall and extend some PCs. Maybe over time you add a different monitor to the wall because you need to see something more than what you needed to see. Right? There's not a lot of flexibility in that. You're tied into one PC, not a lot of usability and control. And if there is an incident and or there's new content that becomes available that's important to an incident, it becomes very complex and difficult in order to change that content to the security posture or that common operational picture that you need to see. They also might use standard office grade furniture. So then your operator experience is not comfortable. It's not relaxing. It does not encourage alertness and comfort of the operator in order for them to effectively do the job. And that's what we ultimately talk about when we talk about operator experience. It's removing hurdles. It's keeping them comfortable and alert so they can do their job. That's the under-design side of it. The other part of under-design is that you're left on your own as end users, as integrators, as consultants, to pick and pull the different ingredients that you need in order to create that command center system. Furniture, overview displays or video wall, the engine under the hood that drives the content and actually visualizes the content. You're left on your own to do those things. And who knows if those different parts and pieces are going to work out well for you. There's also configuration, there's setup, there's complexity in the actual execution of the job, and then of course the tail end support. Not always an easily overlooked thing, but in a command center, mission critical means mission critical level of support. Because minutes, hours, all that stuff comes into play when we start talking about these technologies in a command center. So then we go, great, cool. Well, we're not going to under-design this, but we're going to over-design it, right? So we're going to try to design it to a GSOC standard. We're going to talk about integrations and network connectivity and that shared situational awareness concept of being able to communicate this outward. And it all sounds great. It really, really does. And I'm not saying not to do that. What I'm saying is, in that case, you're over-designing a system. You've got more layers in there than realistically what your system truly does need to support its mission of a small to medium-sized command center. And realistically what happens there, along with the complexity, along with the support risks that are in there, becomes a very bloated budget, which may or may not be able to be supported and sustained for either the original investment, the ongoing, and the overall total cost of ownership for that small to medium command center. So that's the problem. That's what we saw, was there's this middle ground between a full-on fusion center, full-on global security operations center, and they're either under-designed or over-designed. So how do we solve that problem? And again, this is born out of years of proof of performance, of lessons learned the hard way and the not so hard way, hopefully in most cases. And so the solution is Vistacom SecureView. So Vistacom SecureView is a product. It is a pre-configured product. It is a streamlined, configurable, and we'll talk about what those terms mean in a little bit, video wall solution. The key here is easy to specify and configure. So whether you're a end user, whether you're an integrator and you're an engineer or a sales rep for an integrator, or you're a consultant, easy to specify, easy to configure. Path of least resistance here becomes really important for us. And Vistacom SecureView addresses that. The kicker here is that because it's Vistacom and because we work in command and control on a daily basis, we understand these systems. So what we're doing is we're going to configure everything at Vistacom in our factory before it leaves here, test it all out. So when it comes to you, it's easy to install and assemble. It's DIY in the field by your teams. Vistacom boots never hit the ground because A, we don't need to. We've solved all that complexity issues for you, and you don't have to worry about the added cost and all the logistics and coordination around having us come out to assist your team to do the installation. I guarantee you can do it all yourself. If I can set up an ISC West a couple weeks ago by myself, you can definitely set it up yourself. I want to hedge the bet a little bit on this next topic because it's a foundational processing platform. We'll talk a little bit more about the processor in a minute. There's a key word in there that's important to understand the limitations on it. Scalable is an important word because one of the things we try to do with SecureView, and you'll hear me when we have conversations about what it can do, probably say no more than I say yes. And there's a real good reason for that. Because in the past, when others have tried this sock in a box concept, one of the things that's fallen down is that we've always said this is what it is, but it can do this. Yes, we can do that. We can add that component onto it. It's not what we're doing here. Okay, it's a very defined solution. It fits a piece of the puzzle. Okay, if you want to talk about something else doing more than that, we can use this as a foundation. That's the scalability of it. But if 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you went, hey, listen, this worked for me for the first 2, 3, 4 years, but now my mission has slightly changed. That's the scalable nature of it. We, through whatever partners are engaged in the project, can have a conversation about how we can utilize SecureView as a foundation to build upon it in the future. That's the scalable. That's kind of the fine print that I definitely want to get out of the way and make sure that everybody understands. One of the things we also said was, hey, listen, we need to give documentation that we would expect, that we would want if we were in your shoes. So we've put together consultant specifications. Very easy for a consultant to take this out and specify it based upon that simple configuration. We have simple install videos. You're actually going to see one of them here that talks a little bit about it and stuff like that. But again, 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute digestible videos to help you with the certain pieces of this. There's not a lot of complexity to the install, but where there is, it's usually around installing a 2x2 video wall and making sure you get that aligned right and installed properly so that it's level, it's plumb, it's square, and you handle the displays properly. There's a 98-inch monitor here that requires 3 pairs of hands. We're going to show you how to use that to be delicate so you don't break the display by cracking the glass and what have you. Training guides are very simple, very straightforward, and we'll show you that user interface that talks to that in a little bit. And basically, that all in one concept. It can be consoles. It can be the video wall or displays. It can be the processor and the user interface, and it can be some of those other things like audio options on there. It can be, is my cabling going to be 10 feet or less because I can put the processor very close to the wall, or do I need to extend it down the hallway to a data closet or what have you? So when we talk about all-in-one command center, we're talking about packaging all of those different pieces in a configured model that you select very easily that ultimately achieves the stability we need, but also the price point, the cost for the end user budget. But the basic offering here, and you can kind of see it in the graphic, but also over on the right, and it's what the things we talked about. A couple different display options, console options, in or out, processor, user interface, and then a couple of those other options we talked about, audio. We can floor stand this or wall mount it. Those are also become part of that within a small command center. Those aren't always fixed installations. Sometimes it's a temporary space. So that floor option does become important. One of those things that we added in, again, knowing about the flexibility of some of these types of spaces. So this is really the heart and soul of Vistacom SecureView, and we spent a significant amount of time to find the right product that would achieve what we're looking for in terms of form, function, performance, as well as price point. So I'm very excited about our processor. It is purpose-built hardware. It is meant for a 24/7 operation center. It does not rely on any kind of off-the-shelf. It is purpose-built hardware, and it is proven and stable technology. We went out to an OEM to find something that is already in the industry, proven and works, and that Vistacom can put its stamp on of quality. We found that. What I love most about it is its form factor. We can still rack mount this thing, but it's in this smallish size brick that can also fit into a well-ventilated credenza or on a shelf. So it becomes versatile in terms of where it is. It's not this whole rack-wide, very deep type of processor that you need a lot of space for in order to make it work. You can see some of the ins and outs. Every processor is identical with the exception of one thing. The option is standard or redundant power. The cool part about that is it allows us to have that on our shelf for advanced parts replacements. If something is to fail here, we will literally take it off the shelf, send it to you. It's already got the configuration built around it. It's good to go. So by having the same exact processor, it limits us in terms of that those variables, those support variables that we talk about that are, we want to try to remove those risks as much as possible. 8 inputs on every box, whether it's a single display or a 3x2, 3 wide, 2 high video wall, and then the outputs to support that one output per display, regardless of the configuration. The display options, there are 4 different display options here. And again, the reason why there's 4 is it's meant for that small to medium-sized control room, right? Single 98-inch 4K display. That's a large screen. It does require 3 people to install it. We're very clear about that. So when you do this out in the field, we're going to definitely make sure that you have 3 people there to do it. Those are heavy. They're very large. They are susceptible to breakage, so we want to make sure that you know that. That's it's probably the biggest risk on these systems. Dual 75, so 2 sit side by side sitting next to each other, and then a traditional video wall in 2 different flavors, 2x2 55-inch, 3x2 55-inch. Wall and floor mount option with one caveat. The 98-inch does not have a floor mount option. Right? Again, that's too much risk in the room. We do not want to support that. We do not want to advocate that. So the 98-inch is the only one that does not have a floor mount option to it. So if the processor is the engine under the hood, right, the real secret sauce, so to speak, of Vistacom SecureView is in that user experience. We talked about operator experience being really the hallmark of Vistacom quality in control rooms, regardless of the size of space. And the user experience here has to address that. It has to be easy for an operator. It cannot be burdensome. They need to be able to very simply change content, change layouts, do what they need to do without intervention from us or a security integrator or even an end user caretaker, what have you. So the SecureView system comes with a 10-inch tabletop touch panel. It's a PoE device. The PoE is not your network. It's an isolated, very small little network. It's a standard layout and feel. It's been developed by our graphic designers based on, again, use cases over the years. There are a couple different options, and we'll talk about that, and we'll actually have a video here to kind of show you that. There's some light branding that we can do around it. So with regards to that, you see the blue and the green scheme that's there. That's Vistacom's color scheme. You're going to be able to brand that accordingly to your brand, whatever that may be, whether it be the security integrators or the end user's brand. You will, when you get this in the field, be able to change via the touch panel the source names, the layout names, the help desk information, and other related things. So you never have to get into the coding of the touch panel or the configuration and setup of the processor. You never touch the software of the processor. You never touch the back channel coding of the touch panel. It's configured through the settings, through the password protected settings on the touch panel. And we'll show you that here in a minute. So let me show you, Louis Paulino, one of our graphic designers, did this for us. So we're just going to show you, this is as clean as it gets. This right here, what you're looking at, and what Louis is going to show us in this little quick video, realistically, the cursor on the screen would replicate your finger. You have 4 different options for a 98-inch or a 2x2 video wall. And you can either basically have full screen, side by side. You can quad split the screen, or that 4th option out to the side that you're going to see in a minute is quad, and then a quad within the quad. Okay, and you simply press the source and you press the box. Press the source, press the box. You can replicate the same source as Louis is right there on multiple windows, or you can have an individual source go into each of those windows. It is as simple as that. There's a sanitized video wall layout there and stuff like that where you can clean it. So if you have a visitor that's coming in and you don't want to share sensitive information, you can sanitize the video wall real quickly and go back. No other controls. Simplified layouts that are already preconceived, pre-saved for you in the system. Down below, you can see the audio options, the help desk tools, and shutdown. Audio and shutdown, you can turn off. So you can remove those options. If there's not an audio option in the system, it won't come configured that way. But shutdown, if you're a 24/7 facility, you don't want to give your operators the ability to shut down the system, you can hide that button in the configuration page. And I'll show you that now next on the next screen. So this is the backend configuration. When you hit settings, you're going to come to a password screen. You're going to define what that password is. We have a backend for support if we ever need to, okay? But you're going to define what that backend is for your team. Here's the backend configuration. This is part of it at least. So you enter in your password, as Lewis is doing right now, come to a very simple technical controls page, and this is what you're really going to be doing. You're going to be able to predefine what your source names are, whether it's an operator PC, whether it's a VMS, whether it's a cable TV tuner, whether it's some other type of dashboard or computer application that you have running on a workstation. And here's the key. Right now we're calling that security cameras, but maybe you call it Genetec, and in a couple of years, as some people do, they change from Genetec to ONSSI. You can change that here in terms of the input names. The layout names you can also change and you can save. That configuration down below is a back-end configuration that we use when we initially set up the systems that will be hidden in the final product that you get out there in the field. But nonetheless, you can see the back-end configuration, very simple to change the names on layouts and inputs to match up with your nomenclature. So Vistacom SecureView, this is really what you're talking about here. This is the simplicity of the system. You've got processor with 8 inputs going out to the displays, whether it's that single 98-inch, dual 75s, 2x2, 3x2 55-inch flat panels, and the touch panel, and then a small control node. That's it. We have tried to strip out those values, the adds that we bring into the overall GSOC into something that's highly functional, highly stable, removing potential points of failure so it does what it's supposed to do. That's the key here, is removing those extra things that you don't need in order to do what you need to do. So now let's talk about the ease of connectivity, because again, we talked about how we did this so that you guys, it was easy in the field, it's all pre-configured, very easy to do. So there's some audio. So one of the things that was said on there that's very interesting, and it comes up on the next slide, is that there are 2 cabling options. Every kit that goes out will have all the cabling that you need. As an integrator, as an end user, as a consultant, you never have to worry about, oh, did I miss a cable that I need? What cable do I need? Every SecureView kit comes with the cabling that you need to do the installation, and labeled according to the very simplistic drawing that you're going to get in that video that you just saw in terms of you connect 1-to-1. It doesn't get easier than that. Standard cable kit is going to have what you have on there in the screen. Okay, basically it says that the processor is going to be within proximity to the video wall. Credenza in front of it perhaps, or a shelf in front of it, or the rack that may be in the room is local to that space. But we also know that that's not always practical, that maybe you're going to put this into an IDF or a closet or whatever the case is. So the extended cable kit has up to 100 foot of that shielded Cat6 for the touch panel, as well as an AOC, which for those of you that may not understand AOC, it's active optical cable. So it's basically a fiber cable that is armored, that is powered via the HDMI power on either end in order to send that light signal across that 100 foot of diagonal. Again, no transmitters, no receivers, no power supplies. Again, simple, one cable in order to extend that signal out as need be. The output cables are going to match up. If it's a single 98, you're going to get 1. If it's a 3x2, 50, you're going to get 6. Right? So that's why that little footnote there at the bottom. Again, trying to give you everything that you need: mounts, cabling, product, etc., videos, install guides, in order to make this system usable for you in the field. And best of it, we're not just pulling this stuff off the shelf and sending it out to you. They're all pre-labeled and they're tested with your actual system before it leaves Vistacom. So you should not have to worry about DOA product. You may have to worry about shipping issues. We all have to worry about shipping issues, Dave, but you're not going to have to worry about DOA product because it all gets tested and certified before it leaves Vistacom. So talking about console options, we have a console option. We've come up with a we believe to be a very cost-effective yet very durable console. This is a sit-stand console. It is dual work surface, which means that the back surface that has the monitors on it can raise and lower different than the front surface. Okay, it's an open frame, so you don't have a lot of stuff underneath it. Very clean, very ergonomic. Comes with 3 articulating monitor mounts. If you only have 2 monitors local at your workstations, just remove one. It's very easy to store it off the backside. And there's a couple of different standard finish selections, not many, a couple different ones. Again, trying to get to the heart of this, mostly gray or black is the color of choice. In those cases where there's something different, we do have a couple of other options there. The plan in the front elevation, just to give you an idea of the footprint. So 60 inches wide, 5 foot, which is enough for a single operator. We didn't want to make it too small. We also don't want to make it too large because we know the types of spaces that we're talking about. And again, the reason why you can only get up to 4 is because Vistacom SecureView is not meant for spaces that really have more than that. Can you put it in there? Sure. Would we sell you a 5th one as a separate line item? Sure. Okay, but the kit itself comes with up to 4, 0 to 4. Audio options, basically 4 different versions. You have a sound bar, sorry about the R, flanking speakers, and or if you have, depending on the size of the space, you can do some low profile ceiling speakers. Each of these systems comes with the mixer and amp that you need. So this standalone box, separate box, same box for each of them. Again, spare parts, advanced replacement parts, and then standard length cable. So if you're using the low profile ceiling speakers, you're going to get 70 volt speaker cabling, 18 gauge cabling. That's going to be 250 foot of length. You would cut that in the field. The bare wire gets connected to the speakers as need be. For the sound bars and the flanking speakers, you're going to get the appropriate 25 foot cable that's going to be able to patch directly into those speakers as needed. So we've talked about what's included. Now let's talk about what's not included. A couple things. One, for the consoles, chairs are not included. Chairs are a very personal thing for most users and operators and clients. So chairs are not included in the package. There's a variety of different chairs, from just standard office chairs you might get at a Staples or an office supply store, up into true control room grade chairs that you get through some of our partners and others as well. And we can always have those conversations with you and steer you in the right directions. No source devices. So what's feeding into the system, the PCs, the TV tuners, servers, those types of things not included, as are any of the operator PCs, displays, keyboard, mice that might live out at the console. Again, processor, user interface, displays, and the console technical furniture itself and the audio options. There is no software that needs to reside on the operator PCs. The only means of control is via that 10-inch touch panel. Simple. No software integration. We don't really need to talk to your IT team. We can and we will to share what we're not doing, but we don't need to talk to them because we're not interfacing with the network at all, which ties in those next things. There's no network tie-in. I talked about the fact that the processor and the touch panel communicate over IP, but it's a closed, small, little control system. And there's no network sources. That foundational product can potentially day 2 do that, but not as part of the SecureView package itself. All right, so we talked about configuring. This is as simple as it gets. And I got another screen here to kind of show it in a slightly different format. But basically, when you get to configuration and you're determining what you want, you're going to check off, do I want a 98-inch? Do I want the dual 75s, the 2x2 or the 3x2? Floor mount, wall mount? How many operator consoles? I can check off none if I don't, or not check off anything. Audio option, standard or redundant power supply, and then standard or extended cabling. It's as simple as that. Here's another way of saying it, because this is actually how you go to order it. The configurator guide, you're picking one from each of these, and it comes down to this is the actual SecureView part number. SV for SecureView, A means standard power, C means it's a 2x2 video wall, B is wall mounted. This customer wants 2 consoles. They want flanking speakers on either side of their 2x2, and they want the extended cabling kit because they're going to put the processor in a small rack that's around the corner and it extends beyond 25 feet. This is your part number. This is what you're going to ask for pricing on. This is what we're going to process as an order. This is what you're going to get after it's been tested in the field, tested in the shop. So documentation and aids. How do we provide you all the information? We talked about this a little bit. So simplified Visio package. Order worksheet. We're going to give you a one-page worksheet. It's going to ask you some simple questions, shipping and logistics, contact information for sure. It's going to ask you what your day one names of those 8 sources are going to be. So we can preset that up for you. Again, reducing friction in the field. Okay, but you can change that at any time after it's been deployed via that back page that we talked about. You're going to get access to online videos, those simple 2, 3, 4 minute videos about how to install a video wall, how to install that 98-inch, how to wire up the back that you saw in that brief video that we just looked at earlier. The online training videos, again, is going to be very simple. It's going to be a lot of what you saw there in terms of the touch panel, kind of walking through that user interface and stuff like that in terms of how to actually change sources and what have you. Simple one-page user guide, which walks them through exactly that process. And then we do have a fully baked-in set of consultant specifications. It is for the full breadth of the configurator. For the parts of the system you don't want, you just basically remove that. It gets you the core of what you're looking for. And all of that documentation will be resided via a QR help portal. It's accessible. It's a QR portal that's going to be on the back of the processor. It's also going to be on the touch panel itself, and it's there for the life of the system. It never goes away whether you're under a warranty or you're not under a warranty. You will have access to this information over the life cycle. So let's talk about what that life cycle looks like. Let's talk about what that warranty looks like. So the base warranty for Vistacom SecureView is 2 years out of the box, everything covered. It's remote help desk support. Again, you as an end user, you as the integrator, you call us up. We're going to support you that way. If by chance, and the very rare chances that we ask you to get into the processor, it's going to be through a WebEx or some type of session. But realistically, that's not the intent here. You tell us it's bad, we walk through a couple questions, and we're going to send you an advanced replacement. And we talked about the help portal. Every system that goes out the door, we price with a 3 and a 5 year option. You have the ability to take it, not take it, what have you. But every system going out the door will have that 3 and 5 year option on it. And this is basically the customer journey. There's 6 steps. After you've configured it, you place your order. Okay, you're going to watch any videos that you need to in order to be teed up so you know what you're getting, stuff like that. You're going to get that project worksheet you're going to fill out, which is going to help the team configure it. It's going to come, you're going to unassemble it, or you're going to unbox it, you're going to assemble it yourself in the field. We've gotten the question at ISC West about assisted installation. I'm telling you right now, the reason why we haven't talked about it yet is because you will not need it. There's nothing other than a body to help set this up and configure it. There's no configuration of the processor. There's no coding. There's no assisted install that's necessary for the system. So that's why it's not even offered as an option. And that's it. After you've connected everything, plugged it in, turned it on, it's warmed up, it's good to go. And it truly is that simple. So just a couple of closing value propositions here. I'm not going to read each and every one of these. There are some overlaying. We've talked about all of these before. From an integrator's perspective and end user perspective, you can use your own workforce to assemble these. Again, you don't have to have the extra burden of Vistacom coming out there or other people coming out there, adding more cost and more layers and complexity to the overall installation. You're using best-in-class technology, best-in-class products that have been proven in to work together. This isn't I pulled something down from a website because it looked good or somebody else recommended it, and I pulled some other displays, and let's see if the EDID management works between them. We've already done all that for you. Every system gets pre-tested by our experts before it goes out the door, so you have that confidence that when it comes to you in the field, you're not going to have to worry about taking it out of the box for the first time, turning it on, and there be something wrong. But if there is, you've got the backing of Vistacom behind it. Not a manufacturer direct model, which could be uneven at best, right? Their core job is not support of an end user per se. They have other missions and other roles and responsibilities in this. Our job is to support you. You've got those access to all of that documentation, those quick start videos, those installation guides. From a consultant perspective, it's the ease of specification. It's the confidence that this system's going to work, right? Maybe I don't do command centers very often, or I'm not sure about XYZ or my bidders list. I don't have control over my bidders list, but I have control over the quality of the project and knowing that it's going to be backed by somebody who does this on a daily basis, whose mission and whose reputation in this market is high quality and reliability of their products.
First off, we have a question. Can we add more sources than the 8 that come with the system?
Yeah, so I think earlier in the conversation, I had indicated that I would say no more than I would say yes. And this is the first time I'm going to tell you no. All right. Again, 8 seemed to be the reasonable amount of options for this type of space and the screen real estate. When you start adding more content, you also need to talk about visual acuity. Can I actually discern the content that I'm viewing? So when you start talking about the different configurations from a display perspective, 1, the size of the space, 2, and then 3, what I can actually fit on that screen and actually make sense of in terms of viewing the content and making sense of the content, 8 was the right number. If you needed to add more, that's not a SecureView system. Doesn't have to be an expensive system. We can use a lot of what we do here as the beginning and the foundation for something else, but it's not a SecureView kit.
All right. We have an interesting question. Someone said, we live in a world where in many cases only a single operator exists in a command center. So can you share some ways that you are building out tools in SecureView to either scale up or scale down based on the number of bodies that are in the room?
Yeah, so again, I think the basis of SecureView speaks to that as part of its native product, right? It's the size of the video wall or the overview displays is based on the size of the space. In part, it's based on the number of people that are in there, but it's more based on the size of the space. What can I actually physically fit in there, be it a 98-inch dual 75s or those video wall configurations? The number of consoles that you set up is probably really where the rubber meets the road. If I'm only ever going to have one operator in there, great, cool. Then you have a single operator console, whether it's part of the SecureView kit or you do something outside of that because you want a slightly larger console, more of a customized type of console arrangement, which you have resources, including Vistacom, to be able to support that. Or if you say, hey, listen, I'm only going to have one, but when I have a special event or I have an emergency or an incident, I need to have that second or third seat. Great, cool. Then in that case, we're probably going to recommend get the second console, have it set up. You're only ever going to have that single interface, that single user interface. So really, that is irregardless of how many users that I have in the space. Maybe I'll more centralize the location of it so that for those situations where I do need to staff up a space, it's accessible to both of us or more than one of us.
All right. Somebody asked the difference between the touch panel and the controller, and if you kind of elaborate on that.
So the processor, right, is the video processor. That's what's actually visualizing all of your content. So the control node and the user interface, the touch panel, go hand in hand. The control node is really just what's rendering the touch panel, and it's communicating back and forth to the actual processor in order to affect those changes.
All right. So somebody has an existing SOC built by Vistacom. Can they add on this system?
So SecureView could be an add-on to the system depending upon the way in which your existing system is configured. And I'll give you an example. So if you had a command center right now, and it's powered by a video wall processor, but you want to put this into, let's call it an incident command center, or let's call it an EOC, or some type of other peripheral or even redundant or backup space. What we would suggest to you in that case is SecureView would be the basis within the room, and that an output from your command center or multiple outputs from your command center would feed it as one of those 8 sources or more than one of those 8 sources. And that would be a very simple way in order to get that expanded situational awareness from your existing command center to any kind of ancillary or backup space. Great question.
Yeah. Another good question here. Can you talk a little more about how the controller can be joined to the network? Have a converged network with other assets coming into physical PCs?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to go back to my initial answer, which is no. Again, Vistacom SecureView is meant to be off network. It is meant to be self-contained. It's meant to have less friction and less risk in the overall deployment to make it simple, to make it reliable. Does not mean that we cannot do the things that you're asking us to do in terms of tying in APIs, alarms, triggers, and what have you. That's the other side of the business. That's Vistacom control room solutions and what we can do in collaboration with the rest of your design and security team. But it's not Vistacom SecureView. Vistacom SecureView, again, we've stripped out some of that to get to a core product that meets that small to medium-sized command center.
All right. Somebody asked, this might be related to what you touched on before, but what about integrating mic or audio for video conferencing?
Yeah. So we wouldn't do it as part of the SecureView system per se, but if you had a PC, for instance, that was feeding a source that would have the output of a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting or what have you, realistically, then your IT team is coming in to do the rest of that microphone or audio integration out to the console to get the content ingested in. Even in this case where I'm using a Logitech PC and I'm using a Plantronics audio microphone and stuff like that, that's all happening upstream of SecureView. It's not integrated directly into the system. The output from my computer is tied into the system so I can share the far end of a conference call. Possible, we can talk about it. The system can support it, but it's not an integrated part of the system.
All right. Let's see here. Somebody asked, which I think a lot of people might be interested in, is how do I get the consultant specs?
Yeah. So email me directly. I kept my email up there directly on the screen. We can share that out. That's not a problem at all. It will be part of the package when it's. We're going to have a help portal that's going to be up there that you'll be able to access in the future. But in the meantime, you can send me an email and I'll get it out to you.
I just provided that in the chat for you guys if you want to do that.
Great.
And so, can you talk about pricing?
I can talk about pricing. But we're not going to talk about pricing here because we do have a mixed audience. So my suggestion to you is to reach out to me, send me an email, and we'll have that conversation offline on its merits on the configuration that you're thinking about. We can talk about MSRP all day during those conversations.
All right. And last one here, based on what you shared, it seems like SecureView doesn't really support our size project. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so again, SecureView was designed to fit a particular application. If by chance what you're looking to do, there's more variables in it, there's more integrations that go onto it, the size of your video wall might be a little bit different, or you have more content, you want to bring in cameras natively or tie it into a VMS or other types of software package, that's great. We want to encourage that conversation. And SecureView could potentially be the foundation for it. It just wouldn't be part of that kit. So there's definitely different conversations. There's different level of discussions that need to take place, and we welcome those, and we can support that conversation in whatever in whatever model that needs to look like.